So the current era of X-Men comics, the From the Ashes era, is coming to an end. And wow, are there a lot of books that have come out over the past year. Over 32 to be exact. So if you want to make sense of it all, join me as I tell you exactly what every single book is about and whether it's worth reading or not.
What do they call you? Wheels?
Hey everyone, it's Wheels here with the long-awaited sequel to my very first video, the X-Men From the Ashes Breakdown Part 2. If you haven't already watched Part 1, which goes over the first 13 series of the era, go do that, and then come back here for the rest of the series. Make sure you've got a notepad, a pen, and you buckle in as I go through everything you need to know. The first book that I will be talking about is considered to be the last of the initial From the Ashes launch. It's Psylocke by Alyssa Wong and Vincent Caratu. And yes, this is the very first Psylocke solo ongoing book in history. Following canon as a member of the Alaskan X-Men, the series begins with her actually being benched from the team, and with all that extra time, she decides to go on her own solo missions to rescue missing mutants that require a more lethal approach. Whilst it is a solo, Psylocke also has her very own supporting cast, her partner and former marauder, Grey Crow, and her very own person in the chair, Devon, a human college student that provides her with all the tech support she needs. Brief aside, I totally think that Devon's role could have been fulfilled by the young mutant WizKid, who's a technopath and was formerly the commander of SWORD during the Krakoa era. But anyways, Psylocke's story is also introducing some new villains and reintroducing some old ones too. And I really love that canon is getting this A-star treatment like she deserves. Caratu's art is super kinetic and wonderful. It's almost giving Pepe Larraz vibes, and I think it's really fitting for the slick action in this comic. In my personal opinion, it's one of the strongest books of the entire line. So if a solo Psylocke story with action, feats, and giving canon even more history appeals to you, then I definitely recommend this book for you. Kicking off December 2024 was Laura Kinney, Wolverine, written by Erica Schultz with art by Giada Belviso. Much like Psylocke, whilst Wolverine was featuring in NYX, which has since been cancelled at issue 10, she was also having her very own solo adventures that were taking her away from New York and across the globe.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Beginning with rescuing some missing mutants, Wolverine ends up crossing paths with a variety of Marvel characters, from Elektra to the Winter Soldier to Luke Cage and Clea. Schultz also delves into some of her family dynamics. Yes, her little sister Gary does show up eventually, along with some of her key relationships too. It's been an enjoyable read and definitely feels like a spiritual successor to Tom Taylor's all-new Wolverine series. So if you were a fan of that, I think you might enjoy this too. Also debuting in December, after the success of the Hellverine miniseries earlier in the year, a Hellverine ongoing was greenlit by Ben Percy, former writer of X-Force and Wolverine, and Raphael Ienco. What is Hellverine, I hear you ask? Well, it's literally Ghost Rider if he was a Wolverine. But who is Hellverine, I hear you also ask? Why, it's Wolverine's son, Akihiro, formerly known as Daken. Now previously, Akihiro had been murdered and chopped up by Sabretooth for Logan's birthday in Wolverine issue 41. However, a demon known as Baragul ended up resurrecting him so that he could do his business. After that miniseries, Akihiro, equipped with his very own motorcycle, is travelling around investigating demonic disturbances and murders instigated by Mephisto, and he uses his newfound abilities to solve them. So, if you enjoy the sound of a gritty detective procedural with a whole load of supernatural thrown in, plus the addition of a Ghost Rider Wolverine, then this book is definitely for you. Whilst every other title I talk about in this video is physically released, Astonishing X-Men, which first began in December 2024, is a slightly different book. Written in rotation by Alex Pacnado and Tim Seeley, with art in rotation by Philip Sevi and Eduardo Ordino. Astonishing X-Men is a weekly Infinity comic, meaning that it can only be read digitally on Marvel Unlimited. The cast is primarily focused around Banshee, Skin, and Husk, so it's essentially a Stealth Generation X book, as they deal with a variety of threats from anti-mutant groups to Morph. I do appreciate the spotlight that both Husk and Skin have been getting with this series, and they've both been particularly ignored by the comics for some time. It's a shorter, breezier read with less bearing on the wider narrative, so if you have Marvel Unlimited already, this is literally free, so maybe you should go and give it a little peek. Releasing on Christmas Day 2024, Timeslide is the third book in the annual Timeless one-shots, which are essentially just big teasers for the stories and events of the next year ahead. But as the title suggests, this one is a little more X-focused. Written by Steve Fox with art by Ivan Florelli, Tempus, from sometime in the future, comes back to the present to give the X-Men's most famous time travelers, Bishop and Cable, a mission to protect the entire time stream. It turns out there's a new member of the Children of the Vault who eats time itself. So the time travelling duo have to go back and forth throughout time to defeat them. And as they go through history, we do get several teasers to the future of the line, both big and small, from the Giant Size X-Men event to Age of Revelation. It's not a necessary read, but Timeslide is a fun little X-Men story, and it does give you an idea of what's coming up next. Kicking off 2025, we're sticking with the time-travelling son of Cyclops and Jean Grey in his very own miniseries. Written by David Pepose with art by Mike Kennison, the 5-issue Cable Love and Chrome follows the Ascani son as he finds himself in the future after a mission goes wrong. The year 3077 to be exact. Here in Salvation Bay, Nathan comes across other people who are also infected with the techno-organic virus, his metal arm, namely Avery Ryder, who is a commander of the city and someone that Cable falls in love with, hence the name Love and Chrome. This book is a very traditional Cable book with big guns and even bigger explosions, but it wouldn't be complete without some twists and turns and some complete time travel shenanigans that might make your head explode. And to those who are wondering where this all fits in a reading order, since this all takes place in a future, it can be read in one go, all before Cable's next appearance in the present, which we'll get to. Following the global success of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, a brand new Deadpool and Wolverine ongoing comic debuted in January. Written by Ben Percy and drawn by Joshua Cassara, the team behind the Krakoan era X-Force book. It features Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously, as they get dragged into a potentially world-ending threat, all led by the uber-90s villain, Strife, the clone of Cable. With that said, this book is very embroiled in 90s X-Men history, from Strife to Maverick to the Legacy virus, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, they literally fight giant dinosaurs. Also, personally, Deadpool can be a bit of a hit and miss character with me, depending on who's writing him, and I actually really do enjoy Ben Percy's take on him. Honestly, if you were a fan of the Krakoa era X-Force and Wolverine, or you're looking for a book about 90s nostalgia that is actually good, then I would recommend this to you. January 2025 was a very big month for X-Books, as Magik's very first solo ongoing series was also released, written by Ashley Allen with art by Jermaine Peralta. Yes, this A-list X-Man finally got her own series, and it initially follows her as she investigates the disappearance of mutants by supernatural means. This plot is becoming a bit of a reoccurring theme. However, it becomes so much more, with Illyana facing off against the brand new villain, Liminal, who really puts us to the test, and along with also having to balance the Dark Child persona, which has evolved thanks to the stunning work of Peralta. Additionally, Danny Moonstar quickly joins the supporting cast of this book, and Alan puts her in a new and interesting situation, which I truly appreciate considering outside of Magik and Doug, the New Mutants really have not appeared since the end of the Krakoan era. I also really enjoy Ashley Allen's voice for Illyana. in this series, as she balances the more headstrong, mischievous jock side to her with her more studious, smart sorceress side. Yes, Magik uses actual magic in this book and uses it in various unique ways. This is not the same Magik who misspelled magic during the Ten of Swords event. Anyways, Magik is definitely one of the top X-Men books of the entire era, and I can't recommend it to everyone enough. But for those New Mutant fans out there, you get the extra special treat of a Moonstar Magik duo here. In February, the company-wide event One World Under Doom began, where Dr. Doom became Emperor of the entire world, and the series Weapon X-Men debuted with a tie-in to that event, though it's really not relevant. Written by Joe Casey with art by Chris Cross and Mark Morales, Weapon X-Men is a 5-issue miniseries that was originally slated to be an ongoing that features an all-male team of Wolverine, Deadpool, I know, Cable, Chamber, and Thunderbird. Yes, the original one from Giant Size X-Men. Fun fact, Joe Casey has actually written the main Uncanny X-Men book before, way back in 2001. And he's probably most famous amongst the X-Men fandom for creating the character of Stacy X and introducing Chamber to the main X-Men roster, which probably also explains why he's in this book too. Now, this series can be best described as an all-action book with big men, big personalities, and even bigger explosions. It's essentially a traditional X-Force book in all but name. I also want to give the book credit for including Chamber, who has been sidelined for the past 20 years, and John Proudstar, who unfortunately hasn't been involved in much since his major resurrection on Krakoa. But anyways, if you're looking for a short X-Force-esque type read, then this book could be for you. Going into March, no new series began. Instead, we were all subjected to the line-wide event X-Manhunt, which crossed over into Uncanny X-Men, NYX, Storm, X-Men, X-Factor, and X-Force. This event is all about Charles Xavier breaking out of the Grey Malcolm prison and various X-Men either deciding to try and arrest him or aid him with his goal. Now, this does have some importance to the wider X-Men narrative, but it's also quite messy, so you could just check out my breakdown of the entire event instead. April brought a one-shot, Concert of Champions, written by Jason Lowe with art by Rafael Luero and Ruari Coleman. This is essentially a sequel to the Dazzler miniseries from 2024 and sees the pop star perform at a festival known as the Concert of Champions. So essentially, it's the Marvel Universe's very own version of Coachella. Dazzler is not alone, however, as several other musical superheroes also attend the festival, including K-pop star Luna Snow, interdimensional rock star teleporter Lila Cheney, plus Dupe, Shark Girl, and even Spider-Gwen makes an appearance. The book is pretty focused on Allie as she recovers from the events of her miniseries, and boy, is she going through it. But it also establishes a friendly rivalry between Dazzler, the older pop star, and Luna Snow, the super viral new K-pop star. And honestly, it's fun to see. Imagine Kylie Minogue and Jenny. It's definitely a more light-hearted read, but there is still some action in the book. It is a superhero comic after all. So, if you were a fan of Dazzler's previous mini, you're looking to read some more about Luna Snow after playing her in Marvel Rivals, or you want to imagine what Taylor Swift would be like in the Marvel Universe. Because yes, all of Dazzler's new songs that have been given lyrics sound like they're straight off of a Taylor album. Then maybe you should check this one shot out. The next new book to be released was another duo book featuring Wolverine. This time though, he's teaming up with Spider-Man in Spider-Man and Wolverine, written by Arrowverse creator Mark Guggenheim with art by Corey Andrews. This story begins with the Wallcrawler and the Short Stack teaming up to deal with an abandoned SHIELD facility when they're attacked by Spider-Man rogues Kraven and Mysterio and Wolverine enemy Omega Red. But here, in this SHIELD facility, a major secret that connects both Peter and Logan's histories together is discovered. And now, when I mean major secret, I really do mean major. And it divides them, literally. But there are still some villains at large, so they are forced to work together. Honestly, I didn't expect to enjoy this book at all, but I've honestly really liked it so far. It's a self-contained story, and the mystery with the big secret is big enough to keep me tuned in. Plus, Corey Andrews' art is truly spectacular. It has this real kinetic feel to it, and is very nostalgic to 90s Todd McFarlane combined with Joe Madureira, if that makes sense. The action is incredible. So, if you're a Spider-Man fan who likes Wolverine, or a Wolverine fan who likes Spider-Man, or even just a casual fan, you should definitely check this book out. May 2025 was the 50th anniversary to the seminal giant-size X-Men issue that introduced us all to the groundbreaking, all-new, all-different X-Men team. And what better way to celebrate it than a time travel story? Giant Size X-Men is a 5-part event miniseries written by NYX writers Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Adam Kubert, Rod Reese, and C.F. Villa, that sees Miss Marvel get taken through time to key moments in X-Men history by an old man legion. First it's to Giant Size X-Men, then it's to the Dark Phoenix saga, then it's to the Age of Apocalypse reality, and finally it's to the House of M. As Kamala is pulled through time, she gets to speak to X-Men characters she's never spoken to before, and gets a better understanding of the history of her new team and what it means to be a mutant, as she's also grappling with her very own mutant powers. If you're wanting to follow Kamala's journey from NYX, then this is the book to read next, as it is a sequel / capstone to that entire series. In July, a brand new 3-issue miniseries began, which had a completely new premise and totally obscure X-Men characters that you've probably never heard of. Wolverines and Deadpools. Yes, you heard me right, we're on to our 3rd Deadpool and Wolverine book in 6 months. However, this one features even more Wolverine and Deadpool in the form of Logan's daughter, Laura, aka Wolverine, and Wade's daughter, Ellie, aka Deadpool. Written by Cody Ziegler and drawn by Rohei Antonio, this is a direct sequel to Deadpool Volume 9, which ended at issue 15 and was made by the exact same creative team. So it's useful to read through that first before you get to this miniseries, as some things that happen in that run are important here. However, the Wolverines are investigating mutant disappearances in Symkaria and decide they need backup, so they call the Deadpools for assistance. But it's not long before a classic X-Men villain reveals themselves and their shadowy intentions. It's honestly really enjoyable to see Wade and Logan and Laura and Ellie all team up together, and the younger generation definitely take after their fathers. Also, I totally called for a Laura-Ellie team up when it was first announced that Ellie was taking over the mantle, so I'm happy with this. Ziegler's take on Wade is different to Ben Percy's, but I liked it, and it's probably even more meta. I had fun with this, though again, this is very much a conclusion to the previous Deadpool run. So if you're a Deadpool fan at all, this is definitely something you need to check out. Also in July, we saw the return of one of the biggest staples of the Krakoan era, the Hellfire Gala. Set in universe 1 year after the previous one, which ended in disaster, the mutants have decided to come together to hold a memorial for everything they've lost, but also a celebration for the mutant community. This one-shot, X-Men Hellfire Vigil, unlike previous Gala issues, is written and drawn by a variety of the current creative teams, some using their pages to cap their runs like NYX or X-Force, whilst others are pushing the main narrative forward. I've done a massive breakdown of this on my channel already, but this is very important to the future of the line. However, it also made me almost quit comics altogether, so be careful with it. Now, these next books are all flashback miniseries set in the past, so they aren't really relevant to what's going on in the present day, but they are still considered to be part of the line, so I thought I'd include them, just in case. First of all, we have Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk, by Frank Thierry, who wrote the infamous Weapon X series, and Michael Santamaria. Since Victor Creed is currently dead in the present, courtesy of Wolverine, this book is set in the early 1900s New York, and followed Creed as he becomes a mobster. But in true Sabretooth fashion, he finds himself in bloody brawl after bloody brawl, and also comes across some 1900s counterparts to modern superheroes. So keep an eye out for that, I guess. Violence and death is a big part of this story. So if you're into gritty books and are a Sabretooth fan, then this is probably something for you. Following the explosion of interest in the Rogue Magneto relationship, thanks to X-Men 97 Season 1, Tim Seeley and Zulema Scotto-Lavina delve into one of Rogue's most iconic moments, the Savage Land, and tell a story that fits specifically between the issues of Uncanny X-Men 269 and 274. Rogue and Magneto find themselves in a war amongst the people of the Savage Land, as their home and the world is threatened by one High Priestess, Zaladane. Seeley does a great job with the voices of past Rogue and Eric, really capturing who they were in 1990 as opposed to today. And he makes sure this fits in the precise continuity without disturbing anything, which is my favourite kind of flashback miniseries. Whilst this miniseries has little bearing on the bigger things, it's a fun little miniseries, and if you're a Rogue fan, I definitely recommend it for you. Whilst Emma Frost is securely a hero in the present, Emma Frost the White Queen is set back during her more villainous days as the White Queen of the Hellfire Club. Written by Amy Chu with art by Andrea DeVito, in this 5-issue miniseries, Emma has to go on a global investigation to uncover a traitor amongst the inner circle who seeks to remove her permanently. Unlike the Rogue series, it's not clearly defined when this book is set beyond it happening sometime after Cyclops leaves the X-Men in Uncanny X-Men 138. After reading through this series so far, I'm going to assume this also takes place before Uncanny X-Men 151, where it's first mentioned that Emma is running the Massachusetts Academy, as that's not mentioned at all in this series. I think Chu has a clear voice for Emma that is in character for her at the time, and DeVito's art is beautiful. And honestly, it's refreshing to see a flashback villainous Emma story, instead of her secretly being good this entire time. Again, this isn't essential reading, but I've had fun with this book so far, and I think it's better than the Emma Frost solo from 2004. So if you're an Emma Frost fan, I definitely think you should have a look at this. And finally, this September, in another celebration of the Age of Apocalypse event turning 30, Jeff Loeb, creator of X-Man, and Simone DeMeo revive the dystopian future with X-Men of Apocalypse, a 6-part event beginning with X-Men of Apocalypse Alpha and ending with X-Men of Apocalypse Omega. This story takes place after the original end of the event in 1995 and follows some of the AOA X-Men, Sabretooth, Blink, Rogue, Morph, Magneto, Wildchild and Gambit as they make their way into the main 616 universe. They'll be going head to head with Nate Gray, aka X-Man, also from Earth 295, along with the Uncanny X-Men of the 90s and the 60s. If you're looking for some Age of Apocalypse content, or you're a fan of Blink or Morph, which X-Men 97 is more based on, then I guess this book is for you. But after reading the Alpha issue, I noticed some inconsistencies with the story and the timeline, which makes me just want to say that maybe you should just go back and read the original event instead. And that's it. That's every single X-Men series in the From the Ashes era. My personal favourites have been Storm, Magik, Exceptional X-Men, X-Men, and Psylocke. But what are yours? Let me know down below in the comments. And what's next? Why, it's the Age of Revelation. Starting the 1st of October, we'll be going 10 years into the future. But don't worry if that's suddenly confusing to you, because I'll be doing weekly live streams breaking down everything that's happening as part of the event. So, if you want to keep up to date with all of that, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss a single thing. With that, I'll see you all in the next video.